Here's what you should know before watching It, Welcome to Derry. This is the new series set in the universe of the recent movies, It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Both the movies and the series are based on the book by Stephen King. And this book is massive, well over 1,000 pages, and that's because it's a really ambitious story. King has said that when he wrote it, he wanted to see if he could tackle the idea of an entire town being haunted. So what is the town being haunted by? The monster of the story is a creature referred to as It. And that's actually a fitting name because it's hard to nail down exactly what it is. Most of the time it appears as a clown, specifically
Pennywise the dancing clown.
But in reality, Pennywise is a cosmic entity. His true form isn't even possible for humans to comprehend, but the closest thing to it is called the Deadlights. They're like sources of energy that can cause major damage to any human that looks at them.
Let's dance! Yippee-ki-yay, mother...
And I know that seems like a lot, but the basic thing to understand is that even though Pennywise has an effect in the physical world, he isn't really a physical being. So when he attacks the citizens of Derry, he feeds on them like a predator would, but what he's really consuming is their fear.
I'll take all of you, and I'll feast on your flesh as I feed on your fear.
The more afraid a person is when he eats them, the better it is for him. Because of this, Pennywise's strategy is to scare you as much as he can before he gets you. And this is when his shape-shifting abilities come in handy. He can morph into almost anything, and he knows what you fear most. Clowns have come to be viewed as creepy in popular culture, and that's honestly in large part thanks to this story. But they obviously weren't always that way. They were once symbols of joy. Kids would go to the circus and the clowns would make them laugh, right? They weren't considered creepy. So the original idea of Pennywise is that he would appear as something that kids like to lure them in. Once they come close, he would then morph into whatever they feared most. That spike in fear would make them just ripe enough for Pennywise to enjoy. Another interesting thing about Pennywise is that he only needs to feed every 27 years. He comes out and feeds for a season and then goes into hibernation, so he's kind of a generational monster. King has said that the reason Pennywise mostly goes after kids, other than the idea that they're more vulnerable, is that there's kind of an unspoken agreement between Pennywise and the adults of Derry. They may not know exactly what it is or why he exists, but they all seem to know there's an evil that occupies their town. And instead of confronting it, they all metaphorically turn a blind eye to the problem.
Help!
So when we go back to that question of what's haunting the town, we can understand the theme Stephen King was trying to tackle. Derry is intended to represent a very classic, even idealized American town on the surface. But as we get to know the characters, we unearth all kinds of horrific issues, problems of abuse, predatory behavior, and prejudice. But people choose to just turn a blind eye and hope it goes away, even though deep down, they know these problems will resurface. So when King said he wanted to write an ambitious story, he was right. On the surface, it seems like a story about a shape-shifting clown, but thematically, he's trying to tackle how our culture deals with, or more accurately chooses not to deal with, some of our biggest issues. The structure of the book intertwines two different time periods. The first follows a group of kids being terrorized by it in the 1950s, and then we follow those same kids 27 years later in the 1980s when they hear Pennywise has returned, and so they come back to Derry as adults to try and get rid of him. With 2017's adaptation of the book, the structure was streamlined a bit. Instead of constantly switching between the two timelines, the first movie focuses on the kid's story, and the second movie focuses on the adults. The time was also shifted so that the adult story would occur in our modern day, and the kid's story happens in the 80s. Our main characters refer to themselves as the Losers Club, and includes Bill, Beverly, Richie, Eddie, Stanley, Ben, and Mike. Over the course of the summer, Pennywise appears to each of the kids in a way that uniquely frightens them. When the kids realize that they've all been targeted by Pennywise, they start to piece things together, and especially when they look into the town's history. In their research, they discover a number of horrible incidents from Derry's past, and wouldn't you know it, they all happened 27 years apart. The kids then understand that Pennywise is the source. In the book, there's a number of chapters that detail these past events. They function as interlude chapters where we take a break from the story and learn about Derry's past. These chapters really help to bring the whole idea of an entire town being haunted to the surface. Because movies always have to condense material, the two films weren't really able to cover those stories, but that's where the new series comes in. Welcome to Derry aims to focus on that idea. The first season is set in 1962, exactly 27 years before the time the losers faced Pennywise in 1989.
I love these!
If the series continues, the plan is reportedly to continue going back in time to witness each of Pennywise's past cycles, with Season 2 in 1935 and Season 3 in 1908. But back to the Losers Club. Since Pennywise feeds on their fear, the kids can't fight him alone. They can only defeat it through the power of friendship. The kids are able to beat Pennywise by choosing not to be afraid of him. Because he's not a physical being, this has a direct effect on his strength.
That's why you didn't kill Beverly. 'Cause
She wasn't afraid. And we aren't either.
Pennywise escapes to an even deeper underground lair, and the Losers Club all vow that if Pennywise returns, they will come back and fight him once again. And no, I'm not going to talk about that weird scene from the book, so drop it. 27 years later, the only person left in Derry is Mike. So when Pennywise starts feeding again, Mike calls all of his old friends and asks them to fulfill their oath and come back to Derry to fight it. When they finally go to battle Pennywise, he truly feels threatened, so he fights tooth and nail to scare them again. Only this time, he doesn't just appear as their fears, he creates them.
He would die alone!
But the losers are able to conquer these fear manifestations by finally resolving these childhood traumas. They attack the clown the same way they did when they were kids, except they take it a step further. They not only believe that Pennywise is harmless, they make him believe that about himself. This makes Pennywise shrink to a helpless, pathetic little creature, and the Losers Club is finally able to destroy him once and for all. Which brings us back to the new series, Welcome to Derry. Since we're going back in time for the new series, Pennywise will obviously be back, and he may even be stronger than we've seen him before. And there might be some fun Easter eggs to other parts of the Stephen King universe. For instance, in the trailer, we see a bus labeled Shawshank Prison. Let me know if you're excited for the new series and what kind of stories you think it's going to tackle. I'd love to hear your theories.